First off, I'd like to compliment Mr. Greenblatt on being a fine representative of small business in the United States. I am Robert Garbini, President of the National Ready Mix Concrete Association. Thank you for inviting me to testify about the Paper Reduction Act and the federal paperwork burdens faced by the ready mix concrete industry. NRMCA is a national trade association representing producers of ready mix concrete, the vast majority of which are small businesses. Nationwide, there are roughly 7,000 ready mix concrete plants employing and using 70,000 ready mix concrete mixer trucks that are annually delivering 450 million cubic yards of ready mix concrete to the point of placement. Ready mix concrete producers recognize that as small businesses, Congress specifically intended them to benefit from the Paper Reduction Act mandates that agency collection of information have practical utility and are not duplicative and impose the least burden possible. I would like to take this opportunity to share with the committee an example of how the Paper Reduction Act could be better utilized to unsaddle at least the ready-mix concrete industry and other short-haul operators from lingering paperwork burden. Concrete mixer drivers are an on-call and delivery product on a just-in-time basis. They operate exclusively in the short-haul construction industry, generally beginning and ending each shift at the same plant location and rarely exceeding a 50-mile air radius. In fact, the industry studies show that a concrete mixer driver's average delivery is only 14 miles from the ready-mix plant, and they actually only drive 4 to 6 hours per day. As a result, industry truck drivers are eligible for an exemption from the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration's hours of service requirement that a driver's daily log be kept. Currently, a 100 air-mile radius log exemption is available if the driver returns to the plant and is released from work within a 12 consecutive hours, at least 10 consecutive hours of off-duty separate each 12-hour on-duty, and third, the driver does not exceed 11 hours maximum driving time. If these restrictions are met, instead of the daily log, an electronic time clock can be used to record a driver's hours. It's notable that the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration cited paperwork burden reduction as a basis for the 100-mile air log exemption when it was first provided in 1980. Unfortunately, concrete mixer truck drivers are unable to take full advantage of the exemption. This is almost always caused by a driver surpassing the 12-hour return time limit. The hours of service regulations afford all drivers, a maximum of 14 consecutive hours of on-duty time per shift, after which drivers may not drive. Yet ready-mix drivers who otherwise meet the requirements of the 100 air-mile log exemption must still complete a log if they exceed the 12 hours on-duty time during the shift. Unlike in long-haul trades, it is very difficult in the ready-mix concrete industry to predict on any given day whether the 12-hour threshold will be surpassed. If the driver surpasses the threshold but does not expect to do so, which is most times the case, he must go back and retroactively log his time status for the entire day on a sheet similar to this, in 15-minute increments, no less. This is simply not practical for a concrete mixer driver, as their duty status changes frequently throughout the day, and completing an accurate log from memory is difficult. To preempt this difficulty, many ready-mix concrete producers have instructed their drivers to log every day and every 15 minutes in case they exceed the 12-hour threshold. The Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration has claimed that the threshold is necessary to safeguard to ensure that drivers adhere to driving time limitations. Yet concrete mixer drivers only drive 4 to 6 hours per day, requiring them to return to the plant within 12 hours so they don't exceed the 11 hours of driving time is regulatory overkill by itself. The Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration has, with one hand, used the Paper Reduction Act to provide the 100 air-mile log exemption, yet with the other hand has taken the exemption away by establishing a seemingly arbitrary 12-hour return time limit. NRMCA urges the agency and the Office of Information Regulatory Affairs to take another look at the 100 air-mile log exemption to see if the Paper Reduction Act can be better utilized to correct this problem. The solution for the ready-mix industry is a very simple one. The 100 air-mile exemption should be consistent with the hours of service regulations by changing the 12 hours on-duty time to 14 hours, which would allow ready-mix drivers to take full advantage of the 100 air-mile log exemption for their entire shift. This seemingly small fix, which can be effected by regulatory change only, would have no safety impacts and would provide real relief from the paperwork burden that has plagued the ready-mix concrete industry for decades. I would also say that a change such as this would impact, I think, the third purpose of the Paper Reduction Act, which was examining the value of information required.